PBS Kids!
Oh, man. I just knocked over my camera. I'm picking it up. Sorry about that.
Hi my lovelies, and welcome back to my channel. Today's video is yet another installment of my deep dives into kids channels, defunct or declining usually. Oh, what's that? You don't think that applies to PBS Kids? Get ready to call me Kyle Broflowski, the way you're gonna learn something today. Anyway, before we dive in too deep, let's hear a word from today's sponsor, shall we? I think because I'm so young, at least compared to like other Gen Z YouTubers, people tend to assume that someone is helping me with my channel. But no, I film, edit, and research everything myself, and having this privilege to kind of be my own boss in a sense has taught me a lot, but above all, I've learned to be on top of managing my expenses. And that's where today's sponsor, Rocket Money, can come in handy. Rocket Money is a personal finance app that allows you to manage subscriptions, lower bills, make a custom budget, and grow your savings all in one place. Trust me, in a world that's becoming so dominated by streaming and subscription services, it's easier than you think to lose track of them all. From experience, last year my mom used my Apple account for an Apple TV free trial, and I ended up being charged for at least 5 months before either of us realized that the trial had ended. But Rocket Money has actually helped members save over $500 million in canceled subscriptions. Everything being laid out in one place makes it so easy to cancel unwanted subscriptions with just a few taps. And to circle back to managing my expenses, I really appreciate Rocket Money's budgeting feature. The app shows you where your money is going at all times and identifies your top spending categories with insights on how you can stay within your budget better. So to take control of your finances today, go to rocketmoney.com/lulaloopsey to get started for free, or you can click the link in my description. That's rocketmoney.com/lulaloopsey. Thanks so much again to Rocket Money for sponsoring today's video. Now let's dive into the history of PBS Kids. In roughly the 1960s is when a conversation really began about public broadcasting and more specifically non-commercial TV in the United States. And what really got the ball rolling was a study by Carnegie Corporation that launched in 1965. The Carnegie Corporation, founded by Andrew Carnegie, is a philanthropic fund established in 1911 with the full purpose of supporting educational programs all over the United States. But one of the corporation's longest lasting contributions to society was the passage of the Public Broadcasting Act of 1967. According to the Philanthropy Roundtable, the corporation used $500,000 to fund the Carnegie Commission on Educational Television to establish precisely how Americans used their televisions and make recommendations about how the technology could be used to spread learning. In 1967, the Commission made its recommendations in Public Television: A Program for Action. Their central provision called for the establishment of a corporation for public television with a mix of public and private funding. Soon after publishing their findings, the Carnegie Commission made headlines selling 50,000 copies in a matter of days. And this was enough to get the attention of President Lyndon Johnson, who would soon after mention the study in his State of the Union address. Fun fact, originally before the bill was signed, it was less specific. It was known as the Public Television Act, which was very worrying for public radio listeners. However, when the bill reached the Senate, Senator Robert Griffin of Michigan suggested the name should be Public Broadcasting instead, and it was this simple change that actively paved the way for the introduction of NPR along with PBS. On November 7th of 1967, the Public Broadcasting Act would be officially signed into law by President Lyndon Johnson. Then just 2 years later, in 1969, PBS was founded with the help of Hartford Gunn Jr., who was the president of the WGBH Educational Foundation, John Macy, who was the president of the Corporation of Public Broadcasting, James Day, who was the last president of National Educational Television, and Kenneth Christensen, who was a chairman at the University of Florida for the broadcasting department there. Now that our little history course is over, I hope you're still with me and it wasn't too boring, let's shift our focus back to PBS Kids. Although both PBS and NPR were established shortly after the Public Broadcasting Act was signed into law, it wouldn't be until the 90s that PBS Kids came into the picture as a part of PBS's Ready to Learn initiative. When saying that though, PBS actually wasn't new to children's programming whatsoever. They had been known for airing shows like Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood, Sesame Street, and Reading Rainbow since before the 90s. The best way to describe this Ready to Learn initiative, at least in my opinion from the research I've done, is that they were just really going it all in on the content they were kind of already known for in that sphere. And the first step in this process was they would introduce new branding in the summer of 1993, and this included our first ever PBS mascots, the P-Pals, which were a group of kids with heads shaped like the PBS logo, and then because of like the P theme, you know, the P-Pals, their names all started with the letter P as well.
I'm Pernell and this is Pete, Penny and Pianissimo, Pete, Pierre, Priscilla, Petunia, Paco, Paula, Peggy, Paganini, Pinky, Polly, Perry, Peebo, and Pat. And now back to you guys.
And the thing about the P-Pals is they all had their own like unique characteristics too. Like Pat was a wheelchair user who loved to play basketball, or there was Peggy who was known for driving her car. Anyway, what truly marked the beginning for PBS Kids though was a programming block known as PTV, which launched about a year after that new branding was introduced. On July 11th, PBS begins beaming its long-anticipated ready-to-learn service to 11 pilot stations, embarking on what planners acknowledge will be a bumpy journey toward better TV for early childhood learning. PBS will introduce 4 new children's series in the first 7 months of the service. Both Storytime and Puzzle Place aim to serve preschool children. The Magic School Bus and Bill Nye the Science Guy are geared toward school-age kids. For preschool kids, the learning messages will be conveyed by the P-Pals, animated characters introduced last year as PBS began developing a seamless children's block. In the RTL service, these characters will reside in a PTV park, a visual space that contains Sesame Street, Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood, and other continuing PBS children's series. Breaks featuring real children engaged in activities will also appear next to preschool shows, which will fill the weekday morning block 7 a.m. to noon and kick off the afternoon block at 2 p.m. As the target audience shifts towards older kids with the Reading Rainbow in the afternoon block, the break material will reflect this demographic change by featuring live-action segments, multimedia graphics, and contemporary music videos within the PTV signature. Different approaches developed for the break material reflect the contrast between the RTL target audiences. To get through to the preschool kids, messages must be direct and repetitive. With school-age kids, however, they have to be fresh and remain somewhat open for the imagination. Almost exactly a year after launching this service, Apple would provide PBS with a $1.5 million grant for their Ready to Learn initiative, becoming their first official underwriter. When Keith Fox, the vice president of Apple's worldwide home marketing group at the time, was asked about PBS, this is what he had to say. At Apple, we are committed to providing families and educators with the technology, activities, and programs they need to allow children to work and successfully compete in an increasingly diverse and dynamic world. Supporting PBS, which supports special learning services for children and communities, is a natural extension of our beliefs. And PBS, by extension, became a part of Apple's own initiative at the time, which was known as Bring Learning Home. And according to the PBS Online Archive, this was described as Apple's expertise and leadership in learning being taken beyond the classroom and into homes through increased parental involvement and the use of technology. The overall goal the company had was to provide families with the tools they needed to promote learning within their homes. So very similar to where PBS started with the Public Broadcasting Act, the goal has always been making education more easily accessible. The Corporation of Public Broadcasting would also donate to the cause in January of 1996 with a grant of $8.4 million, which went directly towards funding the making of 2 new shows, Dragon Tales and Between the Lions. These will become signature shows and services for PTV, the Ready to Learn service on PBS. They have the potential to reinvent how we reach and teach not only children, but their parents and caregivers as well. All of this would eventually lead up to PBS launching a new 24-hour channel in 1999, which we'd soon come to know as PBS Kids. This was announced by the PBS president at the time, Irvin S. Duggan, at the Television Critics Association, and described as the centerpiece of the sweeping PBS initiative, which I can only assume is a play on the term sweeping the nation, with the goal of PBS always being to reach as many households as possible and provide Americans with access to education. The PBS Kids channel will be a 24-hour channel for children from preschool through age 12. It will feature some of PBS's most popular and respected series, including Teletubbies, Barney and Friends, Whimsy's House, Naughty, Wishbone, and Zaboomafoo. Other major series, including new projects funded through the PBS initiative's increased children's programming budget, will be announced as negotiations are completed. But even in such an early stage of PBS Kids, PBS was already seeing the positive effects their programming had on children around the globe. According to a 1998 Roper Youth report, children who had already been exposed to the Ready to Learn initiative were said to be more engaged than their peers in educational activities. These kids were more likely to read, visit the library, demonstrate interest in science and computers, play a musical instrument, and participate in arts and crafts projects than children who did not watch PBS. In the summer of this same year, there was a meeting held in San Francisco, and we got a lot more information about what truly the launch of a PBS Kids 24-hour channel would include. There would be a 25% increase in the children's programming budget, firm production commitments to 2 new series, aka Caillou and an animated Anne of Green Gables, the scheduling of 2 new series for 1999 to 2000, aka Dragon Tales in September and Between the Lions next April, and securing extended rights and funding for new episodes of popular ongoing series. And last but not least, a firm date of September 6th of 1999 was set for the debut of the PBS Kids channel. According to an archived article by current.org, as of late 1999, 30 public TV stations had already confirmed that they would be distributing the PBS Kids channel, and this included 19 local cablecasts, 9 standard definition digital TV broadcasts, and 3 regular analog broadcast channels. Although this marked a new beginning for PBS and their children's programming, it marked the end for the P-Pals branding era, and instead, most likely to separate from PBS, PBS Kids would develop their own branding identity. The new faces of PBS Kids instead became the brother and sister duo of Dash and Dot. The new PBS Kids logo, featuring a thought bubble over the round head of a grinning, wide-eyed boy or girl, represents exactly how the image makers want viewers to perceive PBS Kids. It's about imagination, thinking and using your head, but in a fun way, explains Feld. PBS will carry the thought bubble concept throughout the new packaging, elements, and break materials to be sent to stations in October. We have to make sure that we control all of the messages so that we can create a strong brand, she adds. What we're hoping is that the container or thought bubble becomes a signature of PBS Kids, kinda like the mouse ears for Disney or the MTV. However, things wouldn't really pan out as expected for PBS Kids, because by June of 2002, they were only reaching 9 million households, and while that's still undeniably a lot, in comparison to competitors like Noggin, who are reaching 23.3 million households, PBS Kids was very behind. I mention Noggin specifically because in 2002, Sesame Workshop actually sold their share of Noggin to Nickelodeon, and at the time, it was suspected that their departure from Noggin marked the end of the non-commercial era of that channel. And honestly, as someone who covered the history of Noggin, that's not even too far off, although I think it was closer to 2005 or 2004. But my point in bringing this up though is due to PBS Kids sort of failing, with the help of Sesame Workshop, HIT Entertainment, and Comcast, brainstorming for a new channel began in 2004. A trademark for the name Sprout was filed shortly thereafter, and the following year, PBS Kids Sprout was born. And ironically, the day that Sprout began, the birth of the channel Sprout, marked the death of the PBS Kids channel, which was something I was completely unaware about until now. But that would honestly explain a lot, because I felt like Sprout was always more present in my childhood out of the 2 channels. And a lot of you are probably familiar with Sprout already because it was my video on the topic that I really have to thank for my channel receiving the growth it has in the last 2 years. I would honestly really love to do a revamp of that video and focus in on the shows a little bit more, just because I feel like I was so new to making video essays at that time that that video is not a reflection of my best work.
And I know people really hate when people do that with like their past work, and it's like it was popular for a reason.
But regardless, to this day, it remains my second highest viewed video essay on my channel. However, what you guys probably aren't aware of is the canceled PBS channel we were supposed to get in 2006 after the closure of PBS Kids left this huge vacancy within many of the local PBS stations. In April of 2006, according to PBS.org, there were plans to launch a new 24-hour channel in October to fill that vacancy known as PBS Kids Go, which was inspired by the popular afternoon block of that same name. The new channel, which follows the success of the PBS Kids Go afternoon programming block on PBS member stations, will be entirely devoted to early elementary school kids, an audience with limited choices for media content that is educational and entertaining. This age group is just entering school and is experiencing unique first-time life events, but they have limited educational entertainment choices that support this very important developmental stage. As an extension of the PBS Kids Go block, the PBS Kids Go channel provides this inquisitive, curious, and media-savvy age group with fun, educationally based programming that fulfills our mission of empowering today's big kids to discover themselves, explore new relationships, and embrace the love of learning. And as we know, with a new channel usually comes at least one new show. And you know what show they created? My all-time favorite PBS Kids show, Fetch with Rough Ruffman. It premiered in May of 2006 as planned, but it was set to have a more permanent home on the PBS Kids Go channel. And if you've seen Fetch with Rough Ruffman, you would know it's basically this game show with real-life kids, partly a reality TV spoof with an animated host named Rough Ruffman, so very fitting for the concept of this channel. The other exclusive or new feature to this channel was going to be a 1-hour Spanish block known as Vian, which consisted of existing PBS Kids shows like Maya and Miguel or Cyber Chase, but they were going to be played in Spanish and the subtitles would be in English. Unfortunately, even though this channel had this set-in-stone date that it could be expected to launch by, it never even came to fruition due to fewer than half the PBS stations agreeing to take on or carry the channel. I don't want to bring up a service and not have the resources to support it. Only 1/3 of public TV licensees expressed interest in paying for Go. The Go packaged channel offered exclusive rights to 2 retired but once popular PBS titles, Wishbone and Kratz Creatures, plus a new live-action show, Kids World Sports, in addition to several series already available to stations. But many stations found the price was too high. Now, if you haven't seen my Sprout video, to make a long story short, sure, it was successful. Extremely so, and their programming has not been forgotten. But unfortunately, once they crashed, oh, let me tell you, they burned. By 2013, PBS no longer was involved with Sprout. In fact, nobody was. NBC Universal at this point had full ownership, and unfortunately, they just weren't able to keep up that same momentum that PBS had with the channel in the beginning, causing it to crash and burn. However, the crash and burn of Sprout is partially to thank for why PBS decided to revive the PBS Kids channel. To quote from the New York Times article on the topic titled "PBS is creating a channel exclusively for children," PBS was once in business with Comcast for the 24-hour children's channel called Sprout. That partnership was when PBS learned there was a valuable place for children's programming in primetime. The assumption was that after 6 at night, there wasn't much of an appetite for kids' content. Actually, deep into primetime, there is still a lot of kids watching television. There's an interesting phenomenon that parents talk about, that the time they want public television content is in the early evening hours when everyone is just getting home and they're trying to make dinner and we're not there. The broadcaster said the new channel would be distinguished from other children's programming for the same reason PBS's programming has always stood out. It's free, with an emphasis on educational content. So after 11 years, on January 16th of 2017, the PBS Kids channel would be revived. And with this revival, audiences could also go to the PBS Kids website and access a live-streamed feed of the PBS Kids channel as well. And this, in my opinion, just furthermore puts an emphasis on the importance of keeping PBS Kids free in a world we're surely but slowly becoming dominated by streaming. And with that, we're pretty much caught up to speed. Video over, right? Right? Wrong. I won't lie to y'all, I had zero intention of covering PBS Kids on my channel this year, but this past month when I heard about the defunding of PBS thanks to the Trump administration, I knew I needed to make this video. Let's circle back to the Ready to Learn initiative. What exactly is the Ready to Learn initiative? Well, to quote directly from the Corporation of Public Broadcasting's website, for more than 3 decades, the Department of Education's Ready to Learn programming grant has funded the development of educational television and digital media targeted at preschool and early elementary school children and their families, especially those from low-income communities, through the unique partnership among Congress, the U.S. Department of Education, CPB, and PBS. Ready to Learn combines proven successes with fresh, forward-thinking approaches to reach children wherever they live, play, and learn. CPB and PBS work with leading children's media producers, educational advisors, researchers, local public media stations, and community partners to create and test broadcast content that parents can trust to help their children succeed. The ready-to-learn investment provides exceptional educational and economic value, providing widely accessible and free programming that benefits millions of American families each year. So this is where I beg the question, why the fuck would any world leader want to defund public media? More importantly, why the fuck would any world leader want to defund public educational children's media that has been shown to be beneficial to the children all over our country? Nearly every parent has raised their kids on the public broadcasting children's content. For the last 30 years, ready-to-learn funded PBS Kids content has produced measurable real-world impacts on children's learning, said Patricia Harrison, president and CEO of CPB. Ready-to-Learn has received strong support from Congress for the last 30 years because of the program's proven educational value in advancing early learning skills for all children. We will work with Congress and the administration to preserve funding for this essential program. Public media has proven to be such an important resource for low-income families, rural communities, and really anyone who is seeking out high-quality educational material for decades. Why would we want that to be taken away? Unfortunately, the likelihood of some of you reaching this part of the video and running to my comments to complain about me getting political is very high. And for that reason, writing this part of my script was probably the hardest. But truthfully, there's no point in even attempting mental gymnastics to word this properly, because at the end of the day, there is nothing political about this. Just want to clarify what I meant by word this properly. I'm a very opinionated person. I'm very vulnerable on this channel, and I speak up about issues that I feel are important. I'm a part of Creators for Peace, and I hope to become more involved, but I was writing this script and I felt this need to almost compromise myself when that's not who I am. Education is something that I truly feel should not be a privilege, but a right, and PBS has done such an amazing job at making that possible in this country. And that's fully what inspired this video, and that's fully why I wanted to talk about it. And actually, I think it's very important when talking about the history of PBS Kids that we reflect on what the future could look like as well. Because when you look at the history, you see how impactful it is. Our literacy rates are already declining in this country. I see videos at least once a month on my TikTok algorithm of teachers expressing their concerns because their students are so abnormally behind.
And all they can do is make a video about it on the internet.
And I'm supposed to believe that defunding the commercial-free network that has provided millions with the resources to literacy for free through shows like Between the Lions, Reading Rainbow, Super Why, Martha Speaks, is something to celebrate. Not enough people are scared about this, and that in itself is scarier to me. The important thing to remember, and what I want to emphasize, however, is PBS Kids is funded by viewers like you.
Word Girl was made possible by contributions to your PBS station from viewers like you. Thank you.
Funding for Arthur is provided by the Corporation for Public Broadcasting and viewers like you.
Martha Speaks is funded in part by the Corporation for Public Broadcasting and by a cooperative agreement from the U.S. Department of Education's Ready to Learn grant. Additional funding provided by the Arthur Vining Davis Foundations and by contributions to your PBS station from viewers like you. Thank you.
I've seen a ton of people asking me personally if this is the end of PBS or just speaking of PBS in comment sections like it's going to disappear tomorrow. But say it with me, PBS Kids is funded thanks to viewers like you and me. Did you know that PBS Kids has a merch store? From Wildcrats to Fetch with Ruff Ruffman, there's shirts, hats, etc. for all of your favorite shows. And it's easy to see all these headlines and feel hopeless and feel like you can't make any sort of impact. But if you're looking for a way to help, just one purchase from their web store, for example, helps ensure that there won't be a PBS Kids-less future. You can also make your voice heard by going to protectmypublicmedia.org or calling your reps. What I want to do though to close out this video is quote LeVar Burton, because in 1995 he took the stand for the Ready to Learn initiative, and 30 years later what he said still remains relevant. Make no mistake about it, commercial television cannot, does not, and will not do what public TV does, especially and specifically where our children are concerned. Public television doesn't try to sell our kids anything. Public television is the only place in this expanding information superhighway, this multi-channel universe, place where we can be assured, as parents, that our children can be exposed to their numbers and their ABCs without someone trying to sell something to them.
It's the only place where parents can rest assured that our children can go and discover the joys of reading and the magic of science and its important application in our everyday lives, where they can be introduced to values like kindness and truthfulness and the importance of respect for all life and all living things, as Fred Rogers so eloquently does every day on PBS. You see, the only thing we're selling on PBS to our children, Mr. Chairman, is inspiration. And if we lose this very valuable institution, it would be a great shame. And I'll wrap it up very, very quickly by saying you have been charged here, you and your colleagues, with a very awesome task. That is to say, you have been sent here by the public to keep the public trust. It would be a shame if we made a decision here that was deemed capricious in nature or even silly. Let's not make a decision that would come back to haunt us.
Anyways, that's all I have to talk about today. If you made it this far, thank you so much for watching, and in the spirit of all things PBS, reminder that Lulaloopsey is funded thanks to viewers like you. Shout out to my amazing, wonderful Patreon members. I will have a movie review up shortly for you guys after this video. I'm hoping it may have to be pushed back to June, I'm not really sure, but I will get it up before VidCon. As for uploads you can expect in June, I will have details up on my community tab very soon. I know I want to continue my Raina Telgemeier series by reading drama, but I also have to work around VidCon, so I don't know if that will be my first or second upload of the month yet. With that being said, I'm really curious, did you guys grow up with PBS Kids or Sproutmore? And if so, comment down below your favorite show from either of the channels. And in the grand scheme of things, I have a very small platform, but if I can at least help educate someone or bring some more awareness to PBS, get some more eyes on that, then I think I've done my job and used my platform, and that's something I really hope to continue to do on my channel. And yeah, I will see you guys in my next video.
Doink, 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 doink.